Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to first Olainfarm webinar on 2015. Today we are hosted by Mr. Salvis Lapiņš, the member of the Management Board. During the webinar you will be informed about Olainfarm latest activities and financial results of the fourth quarter 2014. I would like to remind you that we are using a new webinar platform, so please excuse us if any errors occur. We will try to solve them quickly. But before the presentation begins, a quick reminder of agenda for those who have joined us for the first time. Right after the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers session. We invite you to use question box on the right side of the screen to send in questions. We have also received questions via email and investors portal nowthislatest.lv that will be given preference. We will address the rest of the questions afterwards. Salvis, I invite you to proceed with the presentation.
Thank you, Lasna. Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite exciting to use this new platform. I've had quite an interesting time trying to get this thing launched. So if something does go wrong, please excuse us. I believe this is the first time this platform is tested in Riga at least. So let's just start and see how things works out. So yes, this is the webinar on the fourth quarter and the whole year of 2014 that we just reported. And so I'd say let us proceed. Now let's first focus on Q4 numbers and sales of Q4 separately were 23.8 million euros. Which is a slight decrease compared to last year, fourth quarter. However, this is still one of the best quarters in corporate history, which is like about the fourth best quarter in our history. About 3.9 million euros were sales made by pharmacies, and that is an increase by 9%. And about 1.1 million euros were sales by Silvanols. And I'm going to announce that the Q4 of last year was the best, in terms of sales, was the best quarter in Silvanols' history. If you look at the profit, then the picture is by far not as nice. Preliminarily, it is at 560,000 euros, which is a reduction by 86% compared to the same period of last year. So this is one of the worst quarters we have experienced since 2009. And of course, the whole reduction and even more is pretty much because of unfavorable foreign exchange fluctuations, and that's predominantly, of course, is Russian ruble. But there's also some influence by increasing dollar, since we had some US dollar creditors. Anyway, due to forex situation, the Q4 profit alone was influenced by more than 3 million euros compared to the similar period of last year. So if we talk in, if you're talking categories of what if, then if there were no forex fluctuations like that, you would probably experience the best, or one of the best fourth quarters, and absolutely certainly the best year in corporate history. Anyway, the good news, however, is that the profit and loss account that you see for Q4 in 2014 was prepared basing on the exchange rate that we had, ruble versus euro, that we had on December 31st. Now, since then, exchange rate has improved. Sort of, ruble versus euro has gained with more than 10% in its value. So part of the loss that was realized as of end of the year has actually been reversed due to better forex rates at the time when the money was actually received and converted into euros. Now, therefore, let me start with the polls. What is your reaction to the financial figures that we have reported? And in the meantime, I'll proceed to the next slide, which is which is sales by countries. In the fourth quarter alone, I'm seeing that the screen that you're seeing is not really nice. Lasma, is what I'm seeing is what you're seeing?
Yes. Information for audience, you may now proceed with the polls and give your vote and answer to the question, and then Salvis will proceed with the presentation and the poll will be finished, because when the poll is open, the presentation is not visible.
Okay. So should I close the poll? Yes. Okay. So this is how it works. I hope you all had enough time to vote. So what happened in terms of sales by countries in the fourth quarter? We see Russia is down a bit compared to Q3, from 41% share to 36% share. Latvia's share also shrunk a bit, but Ukraine is up 2 percentage points. Belarus is up 3 percentage points. Netherlands share doubled, but as you know, these are shipments that we make to the World Health Organization. In top 10, Italy replaced Tajikistan. Well, in general, you know, every top 10 country bit a bit of sales to Russia. So everybody redistributed Russia's share. Now, if you look at the sales by products in the same period, you see that distribution has become more even. Neiromidin has lost a bit of its share. Noofen has lost a little bit of its share, and Adaptol. Para-aminosalicylic acid has a nice share of 13%, so one of our best sellers. So this is the product that we mainly do ship to the Netherlands, which in fact is a shipment to the World Health Organization. You see, we had good orders, and therefore we had nice increase in sales of this particular product. Others are all the others are up to 10%. All the other products that are not included in here. Now that's pretty much because there was nice growth by some products, including meldonium and memantine, that are now very close to the top 10 list. Now I might take a bit of a break, and once we are talking about sales, I will ask you the following question: do you believe our sales? What do you think our sales will do in this year? So please take your time to vote. In the meantime, I will switch to another slides, so you can in the meantime take your time to vote. Now look at. Thank you. I'll now close the poll, so we have a decent picture again. Yes, great. So if you look at sales for the entire 2014, they're at 93.7 million euros. So we slightly exceeded our sales guidance. We exceeded by 0.7%, so it's clearly the best year so far. Gross sales by pharmacies were also almost 15 million euros, so up 11%. And net, after consolidation correction, the net sales by pharmacies are at about 8.5 million euros. Sales by Silonos are at 3.5 million euros, which doesn't make it the best year for Silonos, because if you remember, first quarters of last year for Silonos were not that good. If you look at the profits in 2014, unaudited profits are 12.7 million euros, even after foreign exchange loss of more than 4 million euros were recorded for the entire year. Profits are about for 19,000 euros only smaller than a year ago, and therefore they not manage, of course, to attain the profit target of 15 million euros. So we only met about 85% of that. So where is the growth coming from in terms of sales? As usual, we look at entire year. We look at 15 products. So some of them are not, 5 smaller ones are not normally seen in our reports. So what we see here is basically quite a strong performance by almost all the products. There are only really 2 products falling. One of them is Neiromidin, which, as you know, is an antiviral product and is very strongly dependent on whether or not there has been an outbreak of flu. And the other product is monoacetyl glucose, which is the product that we are selling to Novartis. Since the product, Novartis' product that they use this raw material for is decreasing in sales, therefore respectively our shipments to Novartis of MAG of course are declining gradually as well. As for the future, we might expect further reduction in sales of these products. But then if you look at all the others, 5 of 6 best-selling products. That's all our best-selling products except for Neiromidin are growing by at least 20%. And Neiromidin has been growing by 5%. But then again, of course, the base is totally different. The 2 super growers, Etranol and Furamag. Etranol has grown by 200%, Furamag by almost 100%, and this is pretty much because of new arrangements we have with our Polish partners. As you remember, throughout 2004, you saw Poland in our main market list a lot more frequently than before. So, and this growth is partially arising from these 2 products as well. Of course, para-aminosalicylic acid, or PASA, which is an antituberculosis product, is, as you've seen in previous slides, has demonstrated an impressive growth. And there are a couple of other smaller growers with smaller base but still have grown impressively. It's Furamag, one of the generic products, and Omeprazole, another generic product that we sell mainly in Latvia. So those have been growing by 37 and 33% respectively. If we look the same way at the countries, overall, as you remember, the sales growth was 20%. So if you look at top 15 countries, 11 out of them, out of 15, have been growing. The only ones that were not growing were Kazakhstan. You remember the currency issues Kazakhstan had earlier last year. UK, and I already elaborated a little bit on this one, because UK is really the Novartis's factory there, which is buying MAG from us. Uzbekistan and Georgia, they are also falling, but by significantly smaller rate. In nominal terms, Russia has added 4.3 million euros to our sales. Ukraine, despite everything, has added 3 million euros to our sales. Latvia also have added about 3 million euros. Belarus added more than 2 million, and Netherlands added almost 1.8 million euros to our sales. So growth of top 5 countries provides about 90% of total nominal monetary growth. In terms of rates, Poland, already mentioned, has been growing best of all. They grew by 434%. Netherlands by nearly 200%, and Tajikistan and Lithuania have also been performing quite nicely. Let's look at the recent events. Among recent events, since we last met in a webinar, what happened was, of course, first of all, was an extraordinary general meeting that was convened on December 17. The main agenda points were re-election of Supervisory Council, because we had a resignation letter from Ms. Elena Dudko, now the former deputy chairwoman of the council. So we needed to re-elect the entire council for that reason. Also, of course, since Latvia joined the EU in early 2014, we needed to denominate our share capital in euros, which is pretty much a formality, but requires, of course, approval by a general meeting. Since we are growing, we do a lot more business, we do a lot more bureaucracy. We also needed some improvements, some amendments to our articles with respect to the signatory rights. So decisions made were, of course, the Supervisory Council was re-elected, pretty much with the same composition, except that Ms. Dutko was replaced by Ms. Ingrida Circene, a former Latvian Minister of Health. Share capital was, of course, denominated in euros, so we still have 14,085,078 shares, but the face value of each share is now 1.4 euros. As a result, the positive balance that rises, because they're about slightly more than 2 euro cents per share, appearing as a positive balance was transferred to reserves, and the amount that appeared through this exercise was 322,000 euros. On January this year, President of Latvia, Mr. Bērziņš, participated in the opening of new site of ours, which includes a final dosage unit for nitrofurantoin derivatives, small batch production site, and a final dosage development laboratory. I slightly touched upon this investment in our last webinar when I was focusing on CapEx, in total we invested nearly 10 million euros, about 2.5 of that were co-funded by European Regional Development Fund, and we expect another 2.5 million euros will be recovered once we complete the tax rebate CapEx program in 2018. Now, from recent developments, last but certainly not least is that on January 22nd, during Baltic Market Awards, we received an award as the Best Investor Relations Company, third best investor relations company in the Baltics, according to the analysts. So the first two positions were taken by Lithuanian and Estonian companies. That also means we were the best in Latvia. So we would like to take this opportunity and thank you all, especially the analysts, especially those analysts who voted, and very especially those analysts who voted for us. Now, as usually we do in webinars, we do have a focus on some specific issue, and this time I decided that we should focus on Latvia, which is increasingly becoming one of the key markets for ours. Since I touched slightly upon the new factory that we've just opened, and I have quite a few familiar names here, let me ask you the following poll question. During that, as you already noticed, the screen will not be as enjoyable as before, but let us take a few seconds break and vote for the poll. Vote in the poll. Thank you. Yeah, now let me close the poll. And excuse me. So now let's proceed with the presentation. So Latvia have a population of about 2 million people. Have major cities, probably known all of them or most of them, of Riga. The capital, Riga itself, has about 700,000 inhabitants, but there are different speculations of how many people unregistered live in Riga and how many people live in suburbs. And pretty much a general understanding is that Riga and the agglomeration hosts nearly 1 million people. Second-biggest town being Daugavpils, of 93,000 people. Liepāja was 76, Jelgava was 60, Jūrmala was 50, and Ventspils was 38. And of these cities, we have our own pharmacies, by the way, in Riga, Daugavpils, Jelgava, and Jūrmala. GDP per capita is, in 2013 was about 15,000 euros. And pharma market in Latvia in 2014 was worth 289 million euros. It's very heavily regulated, and it's very dominated by sales of pharmacies, unlike in other countries when you have a big share of total market being sales by hospitals, being sales by private doctors' practices, etc., etc. That's totally not the case with Latvia. Here, 93% of all sales are made in pharmacies. An average growth rate recently is about 4% per annum. Average unit price fluctuates at about 5.3 euros per pack of whatever product. And market here is very heavily regulated in terms of everything, in terms of wholesale and retail pricing, in terms of promotion possibilities, in terms of pharmacy locations, pharmacy operations. So therefore, entry barriers in the market are reasonably high. So our products here are, I mean, this market for our products is crucial, is a home market for ours. Our own product sales in Latvia are very close to 3.9 million euros in 2004. And you can see here the growth rate, and it's quite clearly above the market. So on average, that fluctuates at the level of 7-8%. Latvia is fully covered by our medical representatives. In total, we have 15 medical representatives operating throughout Latvia. Our own chain of pharmacies and acquisition of Silvanos also was intended to strengthen our presence here and support our sales. Our market share in terms of euros in 2014 was 1.3%. In terms of units, it was 1.6%. And the difference pretty much explains the difference in average price of unit. It's about 5.5 euros in overall in the market, and it's about 4.5 euros in case of Olainfarm. So unit price of Olainfarm is below the average unit price in the market. Now here, let me explain you something. For those of you that have been following our sales reports, both consolidated and non-consolidated, let me explain you what they consist from. What you see here is our Latvian sales for the last 4 years. It seems like the growth has been impressive, from about 4 million euros to more than 20 million euros. But it basically consists from 4 parts of the pillar. So the blue pillar is Olainfarm products. These are products produced here by ourselves. On top of that, we add a bit of wholesale operations. We do sell the products of others. That primarily includes the sales to the pharmacies, because as I mentioned, the pricing mechanisms in Latvia are quite regulated, and a certain share of markup is allowed for wholesaler, and so we are cashing in, if you like, on wholesaling operations by providing a wholesaling service to our own pharmacies and a few others. The lighter green part of the bar is net sales by pharmacies, which means that pharmacy sales less consolidation correction, which basically is wholesaling part that we've sold on to our own pharmacies. And the last part of the green is our Silvanos products. As you see, they only added on 2013. So when I'm referring to unconsolidated sales, that would only include something that Olainfarm itself has sold. So in case of this chart, that would be the blue part and the dark green part. And then a total bar of all the 4 parts, that would be something that we would refer to as consolidated sales. So you can see that since the acquisition of pharmacies and since launch of our own wholesaling operation, they have been very important factors to boost our Latvian sales. On this chart, it looks like sales of Olainfarm products are almost stable, but in fact, as you saw from the previous slide, they still do grow by about 7% per annum on average. So this is the product pie chart. For those of you who all of us, you probably know quite well how our pie chart looks, but this Latvian one is somewhat different. About 46 total 46 different molecules, and if you divide into forms, it's even more products are sold in Latvia in last year. Generally, leaders are about the same as usually. You see the market led by Neiromidin, but is being followed extremely closely by Noofen, and Furamag is close by. But then you see some of the things you don't normally see in our overall sales product pie chart is Fenazepam, which is quite a typical generic benzodiazepine, which is Yogurt, which is our branded probiotic, and Riboxine, which is a sort of heart-stimulating product, really sold only in Latvia. And you see a typically big part of others, so 46 different molecules in Latvia, and there are a lot of sales to be done by other products as well. So let's go through all of them reasonably quickly, not to take too much of your time and leave more time for questions and answers. So Neiromidin, the leader, these are the according to Pharma, the most best-selling product in the anatomic therapeutical chemical group of NO7, and that's the group where Neiromidin is. So you see in that group, Neiromidin is number 3, third best-sold product, but it is slightly misleading because the group NO7 is virtually called like others, and that means that it includes extremely many different medicines that have some sort of CNS effect, neurological effect. I mean, even somehow I saw one of the anti-hangover products actually in this group. So it is a bit misleading, but this is the ATC group where Neiromidin has been assigned. So extremely wide group, and even in that group, Neiromidin is, as you see, doing quite well. Total sales in this segment is 3.4 million euros, and the group is growing about 5.4% per annum, so slightly above the market. If you look at the market share of Neiromidin in that particular group, you see it's grown from 10% 2 years ago to almost 14% now. And the growth rate is very clearly above the growth rate of the segment and growth rate of the whole market. If you look at our second Latvian product, which is Noofen, which is, as you see, in group NO6B, I'll highlight that for you. That is has 4 digits, so it's a bit more smaller group. Noofen is second biggest, first biggest, the best seller in this particular group with 24% market share, and group isn't that big. It's 1.9 million euros in sales only. Has grown significantly though by 23% in 2 years. But then again, in terms of our own growth, in terms of growth of sales of Noofen, we have grown even nicer. As you see in the green line here, it's been growing by an average of about 35 to 37% per annum. And the market share also has grown nicely from almost 16% 2 years ago to more than 24% now. So if you look at the next product, next biggest one is Furamag. As you can see here, Furamag has been assigned a quite small ATC group, small and detailed ATC group here. You can see, here in it says JO1XC. And Furamag has about 75% in that particular group. And you see Furadinino, which is a generic product of which I believe we are the only producers of here in Latvia, and Furgins, which we are also probably the only producers and sellers here. Then Olainfarm in this group controls, if you like, almost 85%, right, of the entire group. Now, group is small. It's 370,000 euros only. It's growing nicely by about 40% in 2 years, but the growth rate of Furamag isn't as big. It's about between 16 and 19% per annum for the last 2 years, and the market share is quite stable at the level of 75 to 76%. But as you see, the group in general, we are quite well established there. Omeprazole, which is untypical, which is quite one of the most typical generics one can think of, but we have quite successfully been competing in group of omeprazoles. So you see a seven-figure ATC group here, so very detailed. Still in this segment, the sales are 1.6 million euros. Growth rate about 5.7% per annum, so pretty much in line with the overall growth rate of the market. We have managed to increase our market share very nicely, basically doubling it in 2 years from less than 12% to more than 20%. And the growth rate of our sales, of omeprazole sales in this group, have for the last 2 years been more than 36%. So very nice performance by a generic product in extremely competitive segment. Etizine, the antiarrhythmic. In the group of antiarrhythmics, this is the leading product in Latvia with 38% market share. Again, the segment is reasonably small. It's slightly more than €500,000. Since 2012, it has been growing quite nicely, 37%. We have, for most of times, grown much nicer than that, and have managed to increase again our market share from almost 30% to almost 40%. So the next best seller here is Adaptol, also one of the overall best sellers. In the daytime tranquilizer group, it is number 4, competing with well-known brands like Plexitonil of Roche and Alprazolam, generic product of Rhenex. The total sales in segment 2.2, so people are getting probably more nervous, and market is growing by 16% in 2 years, but we have been growing much nicer than that. As you see, it's between 18 and 43% per annum. Therefore, in 2 years, our market share here has increased from about 8% to 12%. Fenkarol, extremely competitive segment, the antihistamines. You see again the well-known names that Fenkarol is fighting here with. So Fenkarol is number 5 product in this group in Latvia. Antihistamines, a big group, 2.2 million euro sales, quite a lot for the Latvian standards. Segment growth is also, people are probably getting more allergic, and 11% in 2 years. That's again slightly above the market. But we have actually lost a little bit to others in this market. As I said, the market is highly competitive. Actually, in 2 years, our sales were shrinking, and now only 2014, thanks to some of the studies and some other activities we have done, we have managed to show some growth. But our market share used to be about 9% and down to 6%, and now it's back at the level of 8%. Again, extremely difficult segment, extremely competitive, expensive TV ads used here, but we still managed to keep a reasonably high position here. Fenazepam, a tranquilizer, a serious one. Again, you see similar products in different ATC group. Where Fenazepam is number 9, is number 4 with 9% market share. Again, this is generic. Sometimes it's very high price wars, very serious price wars going on. So limited possibility to have your own good selling point. So therefore, you see market share is shrinking, and we are losing sales volumes. Partially good news is that we are losing the sales volumes at a slower pace. but still the segment is reasonably big by Latvian standards. It's almost 2 million euros, and it's growing slightly above the market. But again, the product is really a generic product, and price wars, of course, are there. So yogurt, again, another extremely competitive segment, the segment of probiotics. You see we're only number 6 here, despite the reasonably big volumes that we spend on promotion of this product. The segment is reasonably, again, big. It's more than 2 million euros per annum spent on probiotics in Latvia, and the segment itself is growing by an average of 10–11% per annum, so almost 2 times the growth of the market. We have demonstrated quite a nice growth here for the last couple of years, especially. So, from a market share of 5% a few years ago, up to 6.2% now. But again, pretty much like with Fenkarol, it is extremely competitive market, the market full of promotional activities. So we manage to be among the leaders with this product here. So Riboxine, a cardiology product, and here we are. It's a very big segment. It's 4.3 million euros, so twice as big as antihistamines, twice as big as probiotics, and growing nicely, again, about 10% per annum, way above the market rate. Extremely, again, competitors. You see Predacton, have Mildronate here, have other serious names in the market. We have lost a bit of sales in 2014, and have lost also a bit of market share, but it still fluctuates somewhere between 2.5% and 3%. Yeah. So, because it's as I said, Latvia is the only country we sell Riboxine to, so not major efforts put here, and competitors are serious and strong. So therefore, we do not really expect a lot of development with this product in the near future. So this was my overview on Latvian products. For those of you who want to analyze it further, I believe that the record of this webinar will remain available, probably on YouTube. I hope Lasma will explain it later if you missed some of the things, how you can then check and find and use for your records and analysis. So this was it for presentation, and I think I'm pretty much ready now for Q&A session.
Salvi, thank you very much for the presentation. Yes, we can proceed with the questions in order they were received, but before, I would like to remind those who listen us that you can ask as well questions now in the questions section on the right side of your screen. So the first question will be, on February 28, 2015, Olainfarm informed about the purchase of new company. Is there any new information? Salvi?
Yeah, well, the thing we actually said was not that we bought a new company. The thing that we increasingly emphasize is that because of increasing risks in the parts of the world we historically have been selling to, in this case we're talking about CIS and Russia, Ukraine particularly, but you also see some currency issues in Belarus and Kazakhstan and elsewhere. What the message was that we are trying to focus, let's say, paying more attention to identifying possible acquisition targets that would dilute our dependency on CIS markets, and now the conditions have pretty much forced us to focus a bit closer on that. And I will not give you details. We have identified some things, and there are some very early stage analysis and negotiations going on. Nothing that I could report at the moment, but the whole point of that thing in our management report really was to say that We are thinking along these lines, and we have been talking about this for the last couple of years already. But that these days, given these conditions, we are a lot more serious about this, so to speak. Lasma?
Thank you, Salvis. Before I proceed with the questions, I will launch poll to ask your opinion about this new webinar section. While you're voting, I will proceed with the question. So the next question for Salvis is, according to Olainfarm AS unaudited consolidated financial statement for 2014, the group lost nearly 3.5 million euros due to foreign exchange fluctuations in the fourth quarter of 2014. How does the group evaluate risk and calculate the future foreign exchange rate? Is the group planning to make any changes in its formula? Salvi?
Yeah, well, depends on what you mean by formula. As you probably know, I've explained this a couple of times in previous webinars. The way it works with our Russian sales is that we actually do sell there in rubles, but the sort of price list that we agree with our clients is in euros, and every quarter we adjust the ruble rate that we apply to that price list. Now, for 3 quarters of last year, we have been quite well off. We have managed to price ruble risks in, and in fact, we're gaining. So we priced in bigger risks than actually materialized, except of course for the first quarter when we got quite a serious hit. Now, the exchange rate that we have applied for first quarter of this year is now 82 rubles per euro. Now, the market rate, at least of yesterday, of ruble was about maybe 67, 68 rubles per euro. So we are, let's say, cashing in on that already, so partially recovering the loss we had in Q4. So as long as ruble doesn't experience hits like it saw in, I believe, December 16 last year, we believe that this model is viable. Especially, we had explored, of course, a number of opportunities, including hedging, but since Russians increased their base interest rate, the hedging costs, of course, are quite high, and we are believers that even if we experience something like what we experienced in last quarter of last year, in other quarters, in other times, we would certainly accumulate big enough gains to be able to compensate for that. Lasma?
Thank you, Sally. And the next question is connected with that as well. Now, will the recession in Russia influence the group results in 2015? Will it have a big negative influence? Does the group have a plan how to mitigate the effect? Salvi?
Yes, we do have a plan. We do expect, well, first of all, since our sales in Russia for about 90% comprise of prescription medicines are the least of all the medical products to be subject to recession, to be influenced by recession. Now, the way we mitigate this is that we continue, with the help of our marketing partners in Russia, we continue to move into smaller and smaller towns of Russia. Every quarter, we open, our partners open hire a medical representative in some of the Russian towns. So we do increase our market penetration. We do cover bigger numbers of people. So this, we expect, will be able to cover for the negative effects of recession, and we haven't come up with the concrete budgets, concrete targets for next year yet, but as far as Russian sales are concerned, we do plan for minor sales increase in 2015 compared to 2014, just because of, as I said, just because we are covering many more people than we were covering in 2014 and 2013. Asma?
Thank you, Sal. I will proceed with the questions that were sent in before the webinar. The next question from Jans Hellet. Olainfarm fixes currency rates for a quarter in advance. What were euro and ruble and euro UNH rates for last quarter, for ongoing quarter?
Yeah, so for ongoing quarter, which is first quarter of 2015, as I said, we have fixed the rate at 82 rubles per euro, and are absolutely happy with that so far. Asma?
And yes, the next question, have you taken some additional steps to hedge currency risk?
No, as I said, we have studied it quite carefully. We have done very serious modeling of it, and given that hedging cost, we basically, to be fully safe, we would need to hedge the ruble for 6 months. Now, given the interest rates for Russian ruble at the moment, and hedging basically is pretty much a mathematical exercise. You can see that you calculate yourself how big the hedging costs are. Now, given the exchange rate that we managed to apply during the Q1, we do believe that we might accumulate enough gains to be able to cover for the loss that might come from some sort of currency hit that we experienced, similar to what we experienced in Q4 last year. So the answer is yes, we have looked at hedging. No, we do not intend to use it any time soon. Last one.
Thank you, Salvi. Now I will proceed with the questions that have been asked during the webinar. Thank you for the presentation, Salvis. I'm wondering, do you see any evidences of decreasing demand for the production in Russia? I would expect that the ruble depreciation has led to an increase of prices and Olainfarm products in ruble terms, and therefore that could create some price competitiveness issues. Are there any available local substitutes in the market of Russia for Olainfarm products? Salvi?
Yeah, I'm just going through the same question. No, we have not. Let's say if you can calculate something like demand per capita covered, demand per person, demand per a number of people that our marketing effort covers, then I would say that there is, despite the marketing effort that continues, there is no growth. But like I said earlier, since we do cover a bigger number of people, we believe we can expect some minor increase in sales. Now, as far as local Russian producers are concerned, as you may know, we are also not only a producer of final dosage, but we are a producer of the API, the actual chemical ingredient behind the pill or the capsule. We do synthesize it right here for most of our products right here in Olainfarm. That means that the availability of an active substance, of actual thing in the pill, for others is limited. We do not sell the chemicals, APIs to others. So therefore, the competition for that particular molecule is limited because very few other companies do synthesize it. So therefore, for those products like Noofen, for products like Fenkarol, there already are Russian competitors. And we've managed to be a lot more efficient in things like assuring quality of a product, for things like studying the product, for things like promoting the product. So we're so far haven't really felt any significant impact of that. However, I know that there is a program called Pharma 2020 in Russia, which is, among other things, targeted at increasing the share of locally produced medicines in the market. And Russian government intended to spend significant amount of money on that program. and has already spent significant amount of money on that program. But to be absolutely honest, we haven't really felt much of the influence of that yet. So we know of all the activities, but we do not plan any huge growth in Russia, but we believe that there are enough reasons for us to expect slight growth. Yeah, that would be the short answer instead of the long one I was giving. Lasma?
Thank you, Salvi. I will proceed with the questions. Can you disclose your forecast for 2015 sales and profit?
Yeah, I can disclose what I have disclosed already. We sort of the working version of the budget says that our consolidated sales will reach 100 million, which is an increase of slightly more than 7%, and the unconsolidated sales would reach 84 million, which is, I believe, also an increase of somewhere like 6.5%. As far as profits are concerned, we expect to be coming out with those as a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. But sales forecasts I can share with you. Lasma?
Proceeding with the questions. Could you please elaborate a bit more on the future plans of Olainfarm? The macroeconomic situation recently has changed quite a lot in the region. I suppose company has to react by adjusting its long-term plans. Are there any changes to investment plans or maybe labor pay increase? Is freezed slowed down? Salvi?
Yeah, thank you. Now, labor pay has been frozen for this year at least. As far as investment plans are concerned, in last webinar I went quite a detail about them. The thing is that at the moment there are both EU funding from Regional Development Fund available. There is a climate change financial instrument available for climate change related investments. And until 2018, for several of our programs, we have a tax rebate compensation available for some certain capex investments. Although these are of course certainly troubled times, we have about 50% extra incentive to proceed with investments until 2018. Of course. The uncertain times make us look again, think again, at the investments planned, and we have, as I explained in the previous webinar, postponed some of the uncritical investments for the end of this 5-year tax rebate period. So yes, we are thinking, as far as labor pay is concerned, we've frozen that, and we are continuously reviewing the investments program, and in fact the board meeting and next board meeting on the investment program is about to take place either Friday or Monday, so we continuously work on that. Lasma?
Thank you, Salvi. The next question. Could you please elaborate the balance of loans to management and employees increasing by 0.4 million in Q4 and doubling to 4.2 million from 2013? What is the future for this trend? What is the spread of interest earned from those loans and average cost of credit paid by Olainfarm to credit institutions for loans, credit lines, leasings, and so on? Salvi?
Yeah, thank you. The pay we make for credit lines and bank borrowings, etc., on average is slightly above 2%, I believe, and we charge for these loans. We charge something in the area of 6%, so there's no worry about that. However, I mean, I personally do not like the situation either, and neither do our auditors. And at the end of the day, we are coming up with obviously a repayment schedule. We believe that the minimum of €500,000 will be repaid this year. If the situation is reasonably stable, and next year we do pay dividends, and if we pay them, then we will pay them at the payout rate of 17.5%. So that might generate another more than €1 million in returns. So I believe that in in about 3 years or maybe sooner than that, this launch should be totally gone. Yeah, we absolutely work on this, and yeah, try to do our best to agree on getting this loan off. But as far as the cost to the company is concerned, there is actually no cost. Instead, there is, of course, a small revenue, but certainly not our business of lending money. So we're trying to figure out the best ways of sorting this out. Lasma?
Okay, Salvi. Proceeding with the questions from Taiwo. Unlike Q3, there were no provisions reported for provisions. Has the risk of bad debt lowered? I believe the company reported recently that there were some sales to Russia decreased on purpose due to unfavorable ruble rate. Has that situation back to normal? Salvi?
No, some of the risks have materialized. I mean, I mean, some of the provisions that we created were actually replaced by credit notes, so they just materialized. As far as currency risks are concerned, like I said, if you compare the actual ruble rate with the ruble rate that was in place on January 31st, December 31st, then the ruble strengthened. Yeah, well, those provisions that we created, some of them materialized and actually moved into loss, but there is no obvious need to come up with the new ones. So that would be my answer. Well, first quarter will come, we'll see what the exchange rates are, how the payables are coming back, etc., etc. We might, as well, the situation might require us to make new provisions on something else, but as of the end of the year, we believe that all the immediate risks, all the real risks, we have either provided for or actually already written off. Last one?
Thank you, Salvi. And the last question that has been sent in during the webinar. Sales in Russia in January were down by 31%. Does this mean that Olainfarm is losing market share in Russia? Salvi?
Yeah, well, it doesn't, is the short answer. The longer one, we gave a couple of webinars, quite a few webinars ago. I was trying to explain the difference between the primary sales and secondary sales, especially to the big market with few wholesalers like Russia is. Just to give you a feeling, a truckload of products going to Russia sometimes could be worth 2 million euros, sometimes even more than that. So sometimes it is really a question of whether the truck was offloaded on 31st or the 1st of next year. Sometimes it could be that previous month the wholesaler has built up some stock for the future, and sometimes the stock is there and thing isn't necessary. So it's really I would like to ask not to make any judgment from 1 month sales volume to any country. It's either secondary sales that are sales from wholesalers onto pharmacies, so they pretty much then reflect the actual situation in a given month, and you can make some conclusions from there. But the primary sales 1 month, it could be anything from just shipment in the 31st instead of the 1st. It could be one wholesaler deciding to build up more stock this month and replenish the stock next month, and things like that. So we absolutely certainly are not losing market share in Russia, and I believe that the next month or 2 or 3 we'll see things leveling out to the next year. If that's quarter we lose 20% every month, then of course we can make some sort of conclusion out of that. But I mean, similarly, you cannot really make a conclusion that Brazil is going to be a big market of ours for just by looking at our January sales figures. So let's just hold on and see what's happening in February, see what's happening in March, and you'll see that the situation is leveling out. Asma?
Thank you, Salvi. As I see, there are no questions, and all previously sent in questions are answered as well. I would like to thank you for the participation in this webinar. The record of the presentation will be available in investors portal naudasliettas.lv and Nasdaq Baltic YouTube account. Thank you very much for the presentation, Salvi, and the answers given.
Yes, thanks everyone for joining in. Sorry again for some technical issues we had during the webinar. As I said, this is the first time we tested this platform. I hope you like it. There are still, however, some new features available. Also, I'd like to take an opportunity and congratulate all our Lithuanian partners and friends and investors that joined in the webinar in the national holiday. So have a nice Independence Day and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Nice evening. Bye bye.